Welcome to Sleuths Unleashed, Unraveling Criminal Cases with your podcast hosts Victoria Kennedy and Susan Gonzalez. In this podcast, we dive deep into the world of crime solving, exploring both the mysteries that baffle and the breakthroughs that inspire. Whether it's cold cases, unsolved disappearances, or the innovative techniques that crack the toughest puzzles, we bring you stories that captivate and challenge the mind. Join us as we uncover the truth, one case at a time. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and let's get sleuthing.
Welcome to our podcast, Sleuths Unleashed, Unraveling Criminal Cases. My name is Susan, and I'm here with my co-host, Victoria. Today is just an introduction into our podcast. We will be reviewing cold cases, missing persons cases, even cases that have concluded, and just deciding what we feel is maybe the best idea of what the case was, how it was figured out, and different opinions on the cases ourselves.
And the good thing is that our podcasts are 100% unscripted. So we are not going to sound like robots, which was extremely important to the both of us. I cannot read off of a script because I will sound like a robot and people will say, "What the hell are you saying?" basically. So we decided to do everything unscripted. We just want to make sure that we have knowledge of the cases that we are going to be discussing, so that way we just don't sound like people who are just flying solo on everything.
We'll kind of tell you a little bit about ourselves, a little bit about our backgrounds, and how we came to put the podcast together. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So as mentioned earlier, my name is Victoria, and I live in California. I've been doing missing persons and cold cases, I want to say ever since I was maybe like about, 16, 17. In California, well, particularly in Los Angeles, we always have people going missing left and right. But my first ever locate was actually a runaway. It was a very odd story. Anyhow, just kind of simplify it. We had a boy who went missing. I want to say he was like about maybe 15. And he actually ended up running away because he was in love with this older lady. And his parents could not find him. Somehow, some way, we kind of connected. I was able to locate him, and I'm kind of thinking back about that. I really don't know how it was done. I definitely know that there was stalking involved, right? So, and that kind of, I guess we can say, unleashed everything for me. I became very involved in missing people and cold cases, more so missing persons from my standpoint. But I also work as a medium clairvoyant, so it kind of gives me that little extra niche. But at the same time, even though I am a medium, it's never X marks the spot. It's pretty much like a jigsaw puzzle as things kind of are filtered in. So I've been involved in several missing persons cases. I've been out on several missing person files. I've worked with local law enforcement, with families. The only thing with local law enforcement is that they don't like to work with mediums. I don't consider myself a psychic whatsoever, but as a medium, you kind of have additional insights that law enforcement are not going to be able to understand or even realize, and sometimes you have to kind of think outside of the box. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And my name is Susan, and I have been in the criminal justice field since about 20 years. I started off I thought I wanted to go into like special agent type work. But then the more I got into my degree, I decided that I liked looking more into missing persons cases, cold cases that have never been really brought out in the news. So I decided I was going to finish my degree and then go into private investigator work. So I first started doing private investigator work in Kansas, working through some cold cases in the Midwest. A lot of cases that haven't been really talked about on television or in the media. And those were more intriguing to me because I feel like there's a lot that get attention, and then there's so many out there that don't. So I wanted to bring more attention to the ones that haven't received attention. And then I decided that I liked writing about the cases, so I started a blog with one of my friends. So we had a blog, and we wrote about one case in the Midwest that actually got a television part on the new release of Unsolved Mysteries. So that was kind of interesting. If you've never watched it, watch No Ride Home. Um, and then also, I like to do a lot of ancestry genealogy, so helping individuals find their birth parents, uh, looking to see if they put their DNA in and I can run their trees back and try to help them find out who their birth parent was. Maybe siblings that they didn't know they have, um, different parts of their family trees. So that intrigues me as well. So I do help a lot of people in that field. I've done probably about 8 or 9 cases on that. And other than that, I've done Medicare fraud investigations. I'm a, I've done case manager work. I've done different SIU type jobs. And I just kind of like the aspect of going out and helping and try to find missing persons, or at least reviewing cases, looking up missing persons like on Jane Doe's, John Doe, bodies found around the areas, and try to track down who may be part of a missing person around that area. So that is my story, and that is why I feel like I wanted to do a podcast.
It's very interesting because Susan and we've only known each other, what, about almost a year now?
Yep, in
And we
July.
actually met because at the company where I work at, she actually was hired, and I was so lucky enough to be able to train her, which, by the way, one of my most easiest and trainable employees ever. So I think that's probably why we have such a good connection. And not only that, but you know, um, you kind of have to think about it, right? Like, I'm all about energy, and energy connects energy. So there's no coincidence as to why Susan and we became so close, and we became friends. And not only that, but now we have a podcast together. And even during the time when we were working together, when I was training her, there was just something about her, and I didn't know what it was. And as we kind of started talking more and more, I was like, no way. She loves true crime. She loves all of that. So I remember when I learned all that about you, I remember I told my wife, I found my silent partner in crime at work, who I can be um, who I can be besties with. So in other words, I found my work wife, right? And so I was telling her about you, and she was like, "That's so cool." And then when all this kind of came about, when you said, we should do a podcast together, I did not hesitate whatsoever. I'm like, let's do it. And it just felt so right. You know, there's always that moment of opportunity where everything happens for a reason. And sometimes when that opportunity presents itself, sometimes you just have to say, let's do it, without having to hesitate saying, well, you know what? I have this, I have that. Sometimes you just have to say, screw it, and let's do it. And the fact that this is so unscripted, because Susan and we've had many conversations about certain case files, about certain missing persons cases, or homicides, or cold cases, whatever it may be. And I love the fact how we can be so on target, where it's not scripted. We kind of go off on a tangent about something else, but we also come right back. And if you look at it, all cases pretty much are very similar in many different, in so many ways. So being able to kind of bring that in together, I'm super, super, super excited. I am glad that I'm able to have this opportunity with you, Susan, and it gives us kind of something else to think about. What else are we going to do with this podcast? Where are we going to take it? How far are we going to take it? So again, I'm super, super excited. And I do not do a lot of cussing, but Susan brings out the bad words in me. So there might be some profanity being used. I know that when we're in meetings, we're texting back and forth, and heaven forbid if if our department manager ever hears this, which by the way, totally different story, which is unrelated, so we won't go there. But anyhow, it's going to be a fun podcast. Um, we like to talk a bunch of BS. We're open minded about so many things, and it's going to, honestly, it's going to be really, really fun. We're just two normal people who enjoy true crime, and we want to make it fun for not only us, but for all of you as well.
I just wanted to add a little, like, when I first met Victoria, it was easy to talk to her. So I could learn things, and I could ask questions, and she'd help me and walk me through it. And if I did something that wasn't completely correct, at least she just guided me through it and let me learn kind of on my own, and kind of watch me and just let me go. So I kind of just paid attention, and I like learning new things. So if you're teaching me and I can see it, then I'm gonna learn. And I learned pretty quick at things. But also, when we were just starting to work together, we just started, making little comments back and forth to keep ourselves occupied during the day. And it was nice to have somebody, just because we work from, we don't work in the typical office, so it's kind of gets lonely sometimes during the day when you're just kind of doing things over and over again. But no, and then once we figured out the criminal true crime stuff, then it was all over. It was like I go to her for every case that I find, even if it's something new or something that I've thought about before, and just kind of get her opinion. And that way, because I feel like she knows a lot about it. So it gives me and I feed off of that energy. So, and she's just been a great person. So she's easy to talk to. It's nice to work with her, and kind of just, we can talk about anything and everything all at once. And then kind of get back on track when we need to. So we're always there. And then I think I've got more into it now that I've talked to her too, because I went out and did a search for a missing persons case and things that I haven't done before. So it's kind of got me more intrigued to do a lot more and help a lot more and get out. So, but yeah, it's been great. I'm glad that we're friends. It's been great. I know I text her sometimes, like, when I'm supposed to be texting my wife, and I'll be like, oops, that was for my wife. And she's like, wrong wife. But I just am going because it's usually between her and my wife that I message. So, um, but yeah, I'm excited about the podcast. I think we're going to do great. I think we feed off of each other great. And it's going to be interesting to go through these different cases that we've got lined up for the season. So,
No, definitely. And thank you for that. One of the things is anytime you are working with somebody, and, you and I, we were together Monday through Friday on what I think is called, on Teams, on Microsoft Teams. And there's only so much that you can do. And there comes a point where you have your busy days and extremely slow days. So, you know, being able to have someone who you're working with, who you can relate with, it makes the day and the training go by so quickly. And it's not one of those where you just want to bang your head on every single wall. And I know this from experience because I trained quite a few people. And there's ones where, you know, I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to do it any longer. But at the end, it all works out. So let me just say that my training days are over. I made that perfectly clear because I doubt there's going to be another Susan who comes along and can be able to talk not only a lot of BS, but to be able to talk true crime. And, I don't go around telling everybody what I do. And I do have a regular job, like I don't know, 6 to 2:30 p.m. job. It's not a 9 to 5, thank God. And, I do it because what am I going to say when it's getting time for us to kind of go and do that big move to another state? The banks are going to say, what do you do for work? Oh, I talk to dead people. They're going to say, you do what? So there has to be like this equal balance. And that's what and me working kind of allows that equal balance. So it's kind of, I don't know, I kind of want to say I kind of have split personalities, but not in a negative way, or, or just in a mental health perspective. But it's as if as soon as I wake up, when I log into work, I'm one Victoria. And then once I'm out of work, then I become a different Victoria. So it's kind of, I become your regular Victoria and then your medium Victoria shortly after. But it is quite interesting. And I know I said this earlier, but we are not following a script. Everything we say is pretty much unscripted. So you're going to also hear any type of background noise. I don't live far from a school. The kids get out pretty much around this time. You're going to hear traffic. You're going to hear, helicopters. I mean, that's what happens when you live in Los Angeles. So just know that we will try to remove as much of the background noise that we can, but it might not be 100%. And also, Susan and I, we are huge animal lovers. So you can guarantee that in every episode, there will be some dogs barking.
I have tons of dogs, so there will be dogs barking. There will be noise from children entering the room because they don't know what it means by recording a podcast and how not to interrupt. So if you hear something, it's just somebody doing something in the background, even though I'm trying to like lock myself in a room and keep myself separate just so everybody can hear me. But I think we got great podcasts, though. I think we have great cases that we want to talk about, and I think they'll be very interesting. And not being scripted, I think it'll be great because then we can talk about what we want to talk about and not like just hit on certain points. We can actually go off into discussion, and I think that's the point of it because I think you feed more off of just discussions instead of trying to just make it straight to the point and just stay on a specific topic, um, and like bullet points. And I think allowing us to do that, we can feed off of each other too. Because I feel like I do better when I feed off of somebody and I can get more ideas. And maybe the audience will be able to find something interesting in something we say too that maybe nobody's thought of before, that can be looked into further in a case, or make you think twice about something and go out, or the tiniest little piece of information that we might say something that nobody really thought, oh, that could actually be a big deal. So we're hoping that happens so we can help like try to get more information out there too. So
Yeah, it's important. There's so many family members who don't have that closure. And I know that when their family members are located, it could be a single bone fragment. It could be an entire skeleton. It can be an entire human body still. Even though they say, okay, well, we can at least have some closure. We can bury them. We can have a service for them. They're never going to have that 100% closure. And it's hard to even say, we want to give them closure, but the thing is that there really is not, there's never going to be closure for them because they're always going to be thinking about what happened. And one of the number one questions I always receive from family members is, did they suffer? That's the number one question I always receive. Did they suffer? Were they, able to at least eat? Were they warm? Those are always the questions that are always asked of me. And it's really difficult when you're sitting with a family and you have a mom who is totally devastated. She can't go on with her life. She can't get out of bed. It's difficult for her to carry on with everyday life, with everyday challenges, and even be able to keep up with her, with her own kids who she still has here. Hoping to be able to help the families in some sort of way is always going to be, it's always going to be the decent thing to do. There's nothing worse than going and sitting down with the family and the mom is in tears. And it makes it worse when you are a parent. It makes it 100 times worse. When I started doing this, um, I didn't have a child. Now that I'm a mom, I see things in a different light. It's difficult for me to sit down with them to kind of even keep my own composure, right? Whether if it's on the phone, if it's in person, regardless what it is extremely difficult. And and there's so many times when I've gone to somebody's home, or I got done talking with a family, and you're trying so hard not to break, and as soon as you hang up, you're just you're bawling, right? But hopefully being able to help these families in some sort of way, I know is definitely our one of our main goals. And not only that, but also to get that additional information out there. Because as Susan said earlier, those ideas are going to kind of continue to come through. And being able to collaborate with our audiences as well, those ideas are going to continue to come through as well. And there's going to be new ideas, maybe things that no one has ever thought of before, which is always a good thing. Because when you have multiple people focusing on one aspect, that energy has a tendency to just increase, and that wealth of knowledge is able to expand, and it helps everybody around. It helps all of you, it helps the family, it helps us. Unfortunately, with law enforcement, it might not help them so much, um, because they need to have X marks the spot. If they don't have that, it's unfortunate. Then there is no additional help. That's why we see families who say, screw it, I am going to go and do my own investigation. As a parent, you have every right to do that. You have every right to call witnesses, because unless there is an open and active investigation, and the police have said, hey, don't go and talk to maybe like Tom Jones, for example, then it's free game. You can go and talk to whomever. You can interview the neighbors. You can go back and sit once again and speak with witnesses. And what you'll find out is a lot of times witnesses, they are afraid to talk to law enforcement. So once you go to them and you talk to them as a regular person, I'm not law enforcement. I just want to find out as much information as I can to help the family. 9 times out of 10, you actually gather more information compared to what law enforcement is able to gather. So always start your own investigation. Never wait for law enforcement. You file whatever reports you need to file, and you automatically start with your own investigation. But there's a lot of families who don't do that, and it's unfortunate. They don't do that because law enforcement is telling them no. But
On a case file too before where a family will be like, I don't want them talking to anybody but law enforcement. So if you got information, call law enforcement. But they don't
yes,
I think the families don't realize that when you're an outside person, like a private investigator or somebody just looking into the case, like a podcaster or somebody giving the details, people feel more comfortable talking to you because you're not law enforcement. They don't want to talk to law enforcement sometimes. They're scared. They feel intimidated when they talk to law enforcement. And so when they're talking to just a normal person that's looking at the case, they open up more. They tend to tell you more. Things tend to come out, and you can actually just talk and like have a regular conversation. They don't feel like there's some sort of threat over them or some kind of hold over them with the information. So that's why, like a lot of times when I do cases and write blogs, I'm just like, if you have any information and want to talk about it, you can call me, you can email me. It's not that I don't want them to go to law enforcement. It's just that I know if they come to me and they're talking to me and we're having a discussion about things, there might be something that is substantial in there, but that part can be given to law enforcement. But at the same time, that person doesn't want to go to law enforcement. So you're not going to get the information just pushing them towards law enforcement sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, you cannot talk to anybody but law enforcement. That's not true. And sometimes I think that's the worst thing to do to a case if you're trying to get it solved, is because people just don't have a lot of faith in going to law enforcement. And some people just don't want to, and they're scared of it. So you get more out of it if you're just a normal everyday person, just having a discussion, than you do if you are sitting in front of an investigator or a detective that's trying to, because they need substantial information, like you said. They have to have something substantial to be able to do anything. So just little bits and pieces that a family thinks, oh yeah, go to law enforcement, that might not necessarily be, but if you're having a discussion and more comes out, then you have more for law enforcement to go off of. And you can report it to law enforcement as anonymous, but you don't have to like sit there and get interrogated or feel like you're interrogated when you're getting questioned. So I kind of understand where they're coming from too on the case files.
Yeah, then you also have to kind of think about, what if those, whomever, Tom Jones, say a witness, and let's say they have a criminal background, or maybe they've had such a bad and negative experience with law enforcement. They're not going to want to cooperate. They're going to be like, look, I don't know anything. But then if a regular person goes and talks to them, a lot of times they're going to be willing to cooperate and say, hey, law enforcement came. I did not want to talk to them, but because you're not law enforcement, I'll talk to you. And it's one of the best things to do. Best things to do. But, again, I'm super excited about this podcast. And I love the fact how the both of us, you and I, are going to have different insights, things that I have never thought about, and vice versa. So I'm super, super excited.
Too. And I think we're going to do some great cases. So we do have some great cases ahead. I don't know if you want to name a few just to kind of give ideas, or if you just want to leave that for suspense.
So no, we can kind of touch base on that just to kind of name a few. We have Karen Lynn Tompkins, who went missing in Torrance, California. I know that we have, I believe it's O.J. Simpson, correct? One of
Yeah,
them.
we have the O.J. Simpson case that we were going to talk about.
I know that I also want to touch base on the Lacey Peterson, who went missing in, I believe it was Modesto. I think that's where she went
Yes.
missing from, Modesto.
And there's a lot coming out
Um,
on that one right now.
oh man, yes, there is, and we'll even kind of touch base on the Mendez brothers. I definitely have some insight on that one. That one's going to be a really, really fun topic. But we're going to bring back both new and old cases, cases that maybe no one's ever heard of before.
Like I have
Maybe,
a one close to where I'm at, Alyssa Turney. It's really got a lot of attention right now too. So that will be one we talk about eventually, which is a very interesting one as well.
that one is, oh man, that one is going to be very, very interesting because it wasn't her dad, it's her stepdad, right?
Correct. Her
Okay.
stepdad had custody of her after her mother passed away from cancer. Yes.
Yeah.
And then she
That's,
disappeared in 2001. So she's been gone for almost 23
yeah,
years. Yeah. So that'll be an
that I
interesting one,
can't
but
wait
it's
for that
picking up
one.
speed right now too. So we'll see how that goes too, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. That one's going to be a really exciting one. Just because of the all the information, we can actually share some things of his YouTube as well. Maybe like
Correct.
some audio clips.
Yeah, he has some interesting audio clips of his own. So
He's very far out there, so I'm
yeah.
definitely very interested in this one. So, but again, thank you so much for listening to the both of us ramble on. Again, this is going to be a great time that we're all going to have. We're excited to hear from all of you, from our audience. We want to hear if you have any maybe cases you want us to talk about. And again, it's going to be extremely fun because it's all unscripted, and we're just here to not only have a good time without sounding unsympathetic, but a good time meaning that this is going to be a place where everyone can kind of come to and listen to these stories where we can hopefully maybe shine some new new light on.
Yeah, and if you guys do have any like comments or any cases that you want us to look at, of course, we have an email. It's sleuthsunleashed@gmail.com, and I can spell that out just to make sure. It's SLUETHSUNLEASHED@gmail.com. And we'll take all the cases under advisement, and we'll try. I mean, we can't hit every case, I know, because there's so many out there, and we would love to, but we will try to do the best we can with our time that we have.
What time?
With that time.
All right, everyone. So thank you so much for listening to our very first podcast, which is just a basic introduction. And there'll be many, many more podcasts coming your way very, very soon.
Thank you, everyone, and you have a good night.
Thank you for joining us on Sleuths Unleashed, Unraveling Criminal Cases. We hope today's episode sparked your curiosity and gave you a fresh perspective on the art of crime solving. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with fellow sleuths. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and until next time, keep unraveling the mysteries of the world.